Come on down to Black Pine Bog, where the cicadas are really loud every so often, and the locals don't dare go because the lighting is so limited you'll trip over your own goddamn feet and end up in the mud. Curse you, Cicada Man! I'm John Renton with the retro review The Beast Within from 1982, directed by the man that would later go on to do Howling 2 and Howling 3. He also did movies called Swastika, the movie, not the symbol, and Mad Dog Morgan. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. I will be doing a retro review of Howling 2, Your Sister is a Werewolf. That's the actual title at some point. And this is based on a novel by Edward Levy. Or Levi, however you want to say it. I don't really know how this is much of a novel. I don't know if it was a bestseller. But it was adapted by Tom Holland, not Tom O'Finland, who did Fright Night and Child's Play. And features Ronnie Cox, Stop Laughing, This Is Serious, who was in The Car, which is another retro review I need to do at some point, as well as Beverly Hills Cop. He was Bogomil. He plays Eli, and he is the father of a young boy named Michael, played by Paul Clemens. Not Sir Clemens, we're not going that far back with the wrestling references. And Eli's wife, Caroline, sweet Caroline, played by BB Besh. They are a happy family where their life is thrown into chaos, basically, because after an opening scene I'll talk about once I basically do the setup here, for those that actually haven't seen this, even though the movie is 43 years old, after an opening scene, we go to, it says 17 years later, so technically it's 1981, but nevertheless, it turns out Michael's not doing all that well due to an overactive pituitary gland, for whatever reason. They can't find out why. We know why from the opening scene, but for those that have not seen this and you're trying to find out, basically Michael must fight urges that he doesn't quite understand, and his parents must solve this mystery in Nioba, Mississippi, or Nioba, Mississippi, however you say that to the locals, are less than helpful before everybody is history. The Beast Within Tales, woohoo! So, for those that have not seen the movie, that is your spoiler-free premise. Okay, also for those that have not seen this, if certain types of assault bother you or the implication of them, yeah, you may not like a couple scenes in this. That's really all I'm going to say right there. So now let's just get into full-on spoilers. Catherine Moffat plays a young girl named Amanda, and I mean, it's weird because I remembered that name, and I'm like, okay, she's been in some stuff since. And she is somebody that Michael ends up falling for once they get to Nioba, Mississippi. But backtracking all the way to the beginning, basically Eli and Sweet Caroline are in Mississippi, this town. They end up getting their car stuck. Eli goes back for help, that is. The dog keeps barking, so Caroline lets it out, and then she ends up attacked by something in the woods. Something that is slimy, shambling, and seemingly man-like, but not Man-Mountain Rock. It's definitely, it's not Man-Thing, it's not Swamp-Thing. It is something less than human. More human than human, perhaps, but let's stop talking about, all that. And then we smash cut to 1981, even though this movie came out in 82. But the $1.2 million opening that this had would be $1.4 million or $4.1 million today. Wouldn't be much of an inflation if it was the reverse numbers. And it did cost $5 million. So, okay, not great, but it is what it is. That'd be $16.7 million in today's money. And $7.7 million for the entire gross. $25.8 million in today's money. I'm not going to necessarily say this was a flop, but it wasn't a success. And, the studio basically said, here's $5 million. Do some body horror stuff after, An American Werewolf in London, as well as Wolfen. Wolfen's another one that you check out at some point. And The Howling to a degree. The Howling isn't all that bad. Unfortunately, it's the only good one. And we do get some transformation scenes in this because it turns out that Michael, well, he's the product of, that assault. So Ronnie Cox actually isn't his dad. It turns out to be somebody else. Somebody that it turns out wasn't actually human. But who is this person? We'll find out eventually. There are the Curwins that are in this. They are a family. It's like the Hatfields and McCoys if they were more inbred. The Curwins basically are all over this town. And by all over this town, I mean there are essentially like about 10 people in this town. And remember the movie Mutant or / Night Shadows? It was known as Mutant and Night Shadows in some circles. You had Wings Hauser and another guy that played his brother that went to this little rinky-dink podunk, hillbilly town. And it was besieged by, some mutant monsters from a plant. This is kind of like that. This is a little more steeped in reality, I guess. But this is kind of like that in the sense that there are some nice body horror effects and actually some decent pacing and some decent build. It just has horrible lighting. I mean, really, the lighting in this is atrocious. Atrocious to the goddamn point that you think it's your television or you think it's your internet or your router. It is none of those things. This movie's just really, really fucking dark. So, yeah, decent opening scene, I will say. The transformation scene, by the way, it was inspired by those previous movies. It turns out that Ronnie Cox actually performed the country music in this. Alright. And, yeah, we open with a shot of the moon. Moon shots. Oh, wow. We slammed right into Michael having these health issues. We don't even, get a little bit of a setup. We're like, okay, we get a montage of a baby Michael and then, a little boy Michael and that kind of stuff. And, oh, it's a happy family. And then, bam, suddenly he is in the hospital. None of that. We just go right to him having that overactive pituitary gland. And, yeah, he basically just ends up freaking out because he doesn't want his parents to leave him. And he basically just wants to get better because he's hooked up to IV drips to basically figure out what the hell's going on here. Despite the fact that it's an overactive pituitary gland, he doesn't turn to Andre the fucking Giant. So, that being said, the parents go to investigate. The guy who is the records keeper at the newspaper place, I believe it's called The Outlook, he is, part of this whole goddamn thing. He does mention, well, you got a few minutes to go until it's lunchtime. I don't know why you're investigating and doing a book on criminal stuff. That is what Caroline does to sweeten the whole thing to kind of get her in. He says this isn't Jackson or even Shreveport. Shrieking Bill Watts noises. Those that are fans of Jim Cornette podcast will know what I'm talking about with all the Mid-South wrestling deep dives. Wish they would have covered 1984, but they covered only about the third of it. So anyway, there's a guy named Lionel Curwin that basically, he was taken out. He was killed in 1964. And L.Q. Jones plays Sheriff Poole. That is such an old reference to how Dennis Quaid said Poole in, I believe, Cold Creek Manor. So he's the sheriff. The other sheriff passed away, and as the parents were investigating stuff, well, Michael ends up escaping the hospital easily. And then he's freaking out, trying to keep the cellar door closed and this kind of stuff. He's either having nightmares or this shit's really going on. Or he's like, we made a promise. We can't do this. And, yeah, there's something weird going on. There's something in the floor. There's floor moving in them hills. And then he ends up basically showing up almost like Teen Wolf, just sweatier. Teen Wolf came out after this, but I digress. He's in a Letterman's jacket, all that. And the records keeper guy basically ends up getting killed. Hilariously, after he assumes that Michael here is a delivery guy. This is while the parents are doing this investigation, talking to the cops and everything. Not the most expertly paced movie, but actually pretty well done for the budget. And for the most part, it's actually, fairly well put together. Few pacing issues, but we get Michael. He ends up delivering stuff to the guy. Doesn't really say anything. And then just gets triggered by the name Curwin. And ends up killing this guy. And actually, it's kind of funny how he kills him because he ends up biting him. Just bites his neck and all that. And then there's the coroner named Dexter. The actor has some fucking shark eyes. It's amazing. So, Yeah, we're not. It's not really going all that great for the citizens of Neoba, Mississippi, and even though Michael's kind of freaking out, he's okay as long as he's subdued and everything, but then certain things will trigger him because of who his father actually is. So he runs into Amanda, Catherine Moffat, who they kind of develop a quick romance. And she mentions about Black Pine Bog, all that crazy shit going on over there, briars and all that. It's the scourge of the town. They won't even go to pick blackberries because we don't like them there, briars and everything. And turns out the paw is related also to the Curwins. And he gets really frisky with her quickly. I mean, not that she's necessarily resisting, but kind of sick given what actually ends up being revealed later on. So then the dog is also digging around at the edge of this bog and finds a hand or whatever. It's like, man, a hand in a dog's mouth is worth two in the briar bush. I think that's how that phrase goes. And Pa, John Dennis Johnson, which that's just a repetitive name. Man, his parents hated him. He's very possessive of his daughter. A little too possessive. But anyway, we get it's only like 3 nights though, so it's 3 Michael nights. I was going to say 3 dog night, but nobody really turns into a dog here. So there are 36 bodies that are dug up by everybody after, some infighting among, between Michael and Pa over Amanda. I mean, I can understand it, but still. And it all goes back to Lionel Curwin. And then there's also this Tom the Town Drunk guy that ends up actually, running into Michael and hears the voice and everything and thinks it's a guy named Billy Connors. You're not Billy. This kind of stuff. And the guy's clearly freaking out and acting weird. But you're not Billy. Billy, don't be a hero. It turns out as he's talking to him, he finds out, that something's not quite right about this boy, Michael. And yes, the shark-eyed funeral director guy, or mortician, Dexter, he demands money from the judge because he's tired of covering up this shit. He wants it in the morning. Well, he ain't going to make it in the morning because he gets embalmed alive because Michael decides to just embalm him because Michael is not himself. Literally not himself. And then he ends up trying to protect Amanda, ends up in her house. So nobody hears this. Maybe he crawled in the window. Maybe he teleported. But then the parents get there and say, what are you doing here? The dad ends up getting upset at him. Slaps Amanda for no reason. You don't slap your kid. You don't do that. And there's all this talk of between father and son of going to Houston. Well, the father telling the son, we're going to Houston. I mean, it was 1982. Paul Bosch was still doing wrestling. So there you go. But Michael lets it slip out that Billy Connors is his dad because it turns out Billy Connors was the one that did what he did to the mother. I'm dancing around the word. And Michael also has this weird scar thing on his back and stuff like that and this bandage. And I mean, he's very sensitive. Want to know how I got these scars? Tom being the town drunk is kind of funny because at one point he's in jail. And gets out of jail and says, I know who's causing all this. Like, what's causing all this? Turns out that he's actually causing, or he knows that Michael's causing all this stuff. Basically what it boils down to is Michael is essentially Billy. He is his demon seed, all that. And he chases Tom to this electrical, power station thing as opposed to a non-electrical power station. Ends up throwing him onto some big old electrical equipment and frying him and stuff like that. Just picks him up fucking Hulk style and just press slams him. So that's nice. And the doctor basically tells the parents about Billy. This is after the doctor, by the way, suffered seemingly a couple rounds of CTE getting thrown into the wall, but he seems okay with all this. And what's brought up is cicadas. If you don't know what cicadas are, those are the very, very loud bugs, especially in the South, that, shed their skin. And, all this talk about shedding skin, talking about shedding, your past self, this kind of stuff. It's a little messy as far as a narrative. I mean, I get what they were going for. It's a little bit messy with the explanation. But we kind of accelerate from here where he basically is telling Amanda to get away because he doesn't want to hurt her. But then he starts snapping, rips the doorknob off, and basically is telling her to leave because he doesn't want to hurt her because he really cares about her. She actually didn't do anything, but because she is related to the Curwins, he is bound and determined to take care of this. So they eventually take the bandage off, and that's when all hell breaks loose. We get, not Billy, but we get Michael freaking out about all this stuff. And, you gotta kill me, you gotta kill me. He says it like 20 times in one scene. And then the judge is the only Curwin left. Well, Judge and Pa. Pa's like, he put my hands on my Amanda. It's like, well, it's like you'll get caught if you kill him. Unless it just happens to be what that maniac did. So, basically they end up finding Billy's body in the basement. They find his body in the goddamn basement, and they also, because the talk of Lionel was that he was burned, he was killed, burned in his own house, that kind of stuff, because he was a terrible person. So they find Billy's body, and then Amanda crashes a car because women drivers, am I right, lads? And then we get the transformation scene. And we get the split back, which is nice. And, I mean, it went on a bit long. I mean, I get it. They wanted to really make it cool. You got the protruding out mask and that kind of stuff and everything. Pop, pop, pop. So, it was a good scene. I mean, again, I think it went a little bit long. But he turns into a weird creature. Pa shoots him with both barrels, but gets killed. Because he's an idiot. And then he sheds his skin like a cicada, because that's what we're supposed to do. Now, it's also because Billy was fed human flesh, so that's kind of why he was acting that way. I guess, turned into a bit of a Wendigo type, even though he looks more like a swamp creature. But the judge, by the way, also is bald, completely goddamn bald. And he tries to run off, and then the creature tries to get him. So he freaks out, goes to the police station, and then he reveals all this stuff. It turns out that, basically, Lionel was so goddamn, whatever he was, he wouldn't even touch his wife. His wife wanted to run off with Billy, because I guess Billy would touch her, but she never got a chance to do that. Lionel found out, trapped Billy in there, basically starved him, and then killed his wife and threw her in the basement, hence the bodies that they found down there. But Billy ended up getting out. A lover's quarrel. I mean, that's it. I mean, I guess that's tale as old as time as far as the South goes. Bit of a lame explanation, but whatever. The judge ends up getting killed, hilariously, when the creature busts through the goddamn wall. Great jail, construction there. Anybody that, has a bit of, hard breath can blow the wall down. So, yeah, that's pretty much it right there. We just get the last scene with Amanda crashed, just, laid out just like his mother was, just like Billy. Ended up finding the goddamn mother. And did what he did to her. And he does the same thing to Amanda. So, we're going around in circles. Tell me, will this deja vu never end? And then he's shot and killed seemingly after trying to kill his dad, but it's Billy at this point, or the creature, not Michael. But Amanda's pregnant with the demon seed, or at least it's implied, and that is it. That is the Beast Within. It's not a perfect movie. I don't even know if it's necessarily a great movie, but it's fun. Has its moments. It's a bit bleak, but it's also an underappreciated 80s movie, because compared to some of the stuff that we see, at least you can actually look back at this one and sort of appreciate what it was, even if it's not great. That being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlin, and until we listen to cicadas over and over and over again and can't see shit because of the lighting, happy trails to you.